Hey, this is Joe from 718 Cycling Outdoors. Today we're lucky enough to have a Kona Sutra LTD in the shop. We've sold a couple of these in the last few weeks, and they're great bikes to build up and great bikes for folks that are in the city and want that one bike that does a lot of things. So we're going to take a look at some of the really cool features of this bike. First thing we'll talk about is the drivetrain. It's a 1x11 SRAM Rival. And it comes with a really nice crank. A lot of times I've noticed on some other bikes that have rival drivetrains, maybe they kind of cheap out a little bit on the crank, but a really, really nice crank here. And working our way back to a pretty large cassette. I believe it is 11 by 42. And your rival derailleur here that hasn't been trimmed or cut just quite yet. Also, you're going to notice through axles, front and rear, we have the SRAM hydraulic disc brakes. And moving up here, one of the features I always like to see on the fork is a fork that can mount a whole bunch of things. Certainly in the salsa world, they'll call it anything cages, but you're talking about a multi-mount or a way to kind of mount multiple things on the front of the fork. So a very capable fork. As usual in Kona world, you're coming with a Kona handlebar, a stem, and what's really nice here is the FSA headset. Like I mentioned before, your SRAM drivetrain comes with double tap shifter on the right, and on the left you just have a brake lever because this is a 1x. But you'll notice taller configuration there, obviously because of the hydraulic disc brakes. You also have 3 water bottle mounts on the cage, 2 on the inside of the triangle, and then a third underneath. Again, you're seeing that more and more on adventure style bikes, and just adds to the versatility of what you can do with the bike. I always look forward to building Konas because they come out of the box pretty set up. Bar tapes wrapped, a lot of things are already mounted on the bike. Certainly the disc isn't mounted because of shipping, but Kona definitely is one of the leaders in terms of delivering a bike to a bike shop that minimizes the time that we have to take to build it. And that certainly factors into your bottom line in terms of how long it takes a mechanic to actually build up a bike. I mean, if you're not charging for assembly, and most shops don't, that just comes right out of the bottom line. So any way that we can build the bike quicker is certainly appreciated. Even when it comes down to the removal of all the packing materials. I mean, some companies do it really well and some don't. Kona does it really well. And tires. These are the WTB 700 by 50 Ventures. You're starting to see these more and more on bikes that are rolling through the shop. Again, we do a lot of adventure bikes here, so you're seeing a lot of the kind of the new and traditional offerings from WTB, which are fantastic. Here's a view at the rear dropout. You'll see fender mounts and also rack mounts, which is a nice feature to have on a bike that's meant to do a lot of things. Okay, I've got the bike pretty much built up. Now I'm going to take it for a test ride. I'm going to hang this sign on the door. So people know I'm out test riding the bike. Getting in here to go out on a test ride, and for all test rides I'd make sure I have 2 things. One, a helmet, because even though I built the bike, you just never know, and you should always ride with the helmet anyway. That's my personal belief. And the second is, see if I can switch this, my tools. So I have my Spur Cycle tool, and I also have my Gerber tool. So between those 2 tools, I'll take those out if I'm going for a ride around a block or even around the park. I want to make some adjustments on the fly. I have those things with me. So the bike built up pretty well. I had to throw some test ride pedals on it because the customer is providing his own pedals. The bike's at 56, which is a little big for me. Kona's also run a little big in terms of the way that I fit on bikes. I usually ride a 54 with a Kona. So on bikes that are a little big, I try to get the seat post kind of set where it should be, and then I'll lower it down a little bit so I can ride it myself. And what I'm going to do on this test ride, I'm going to go around the block a few times. Well, there's a loud car. What I'm going to do is fire through all the brakes, obviously. I'm also going to bed in the brakes, and that's a process where you're taking material and you're putting material from the brake pads onto the rotor. And you do that 10 or so times. There's different ways to do that, but they're all pretty similar. And you're just riding relatively fast and coming to a real good stop, but not locking the wheels up in order to transfer material from the brake pads to the rotor, and this increases the functionality of the brakes. So here we go.